Hey, this is Stan from Tability, and this is going to be a quick session about how to create OKRs that your team is not going to hate. So I'm going to spend maybe 2 minutes in the keynote, and then I'll jump to the platform to show you our own OKRs at Tability and give you a real life example that you can take inspiration from. So some of the common mistakes that we see with OKRs. So number one is to have too many goals. You really don't need to track the business as usual. You want to limit the amount of things that are being tracked. Think of it this way. If your team has to spend hours updating a lot of goals every week, they're not going to like the process at all. And it's also not helping them to understand what is a priority. The second one is you want your objectives to be as clear as possible. So avoid, writing it down like a theme. If you can help people with a clear sentence understand what the end of the quarter needs to look like, this is good because sometimes maybe your key results are not capturing that intent pretty well, but the objective is here to remind people, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. The last one is, don't try to be perfect. I see sometimes teams spending way too much time trying to have a perfect plan at the beginning of the quarter, and perfect is the enemy of good. It's fine if some of your key results are not as good as what you've seen in some of the books written about OKRs. What's more important is to have a clear direction, a clear direction for the team, and for the team to start, keeping track of the progress on a weekly basis. Okay, so to get into give some more practical tips here. So my recommendation: maximum 3 objectives per plan. And so what I call a plan is your company OKRs or your marketing OKRs or your design OKRs. So in one plan, you should try not to have more than 3 objectives. You'll see in my example, I have 4, but that's a stretch. I know that's a stretch. I know that I'm doing something that is not great, but you can kind of it depends on maybe the size of your team. But when I start to see 5, 6 objectives in a plan, I feel like there's too much going on because when you're going to talk about that plan, there's so many items to talk about that it's hard to understand what's important. Likewise, don't have too many key results per objectives. So 3 to 4 key results per objectives maximum. Don't have just one. Same thing in my example, you'll see there's one objective that has just 1 KR, but I'll explain why. But so if you think about it, so imagine you have a plan that has 3 objectives and 4 key results per objectives. That means that on a weekly basis, the team is going to update and talk about 12 items. If you had 4 objectives or 5 objectives and 4 key results, it's 20 items to talk about on a weekly basis. So that's going to be hard for people to understand and keep in mind what's important. Reduce the number of OKRs to make sure that people have a clear focus. And you can use the projects, right? It's projects are still part of OKRs. Those are the things they talk about on a daily basis, but the OKRs are here to explain to them what outcomes we want. Okay. Number 2, use clear sentences for your objectives. So if you want to expand in the US, don't just write it down as a theme. The objective is US expansion. That's not helping people. Well, in this case, it's a bit clear, but in a lot of cases, the objective, your objective is what really matters. So it's best to try to turn it into a sentence, not a huge one, right? You don't have to go into too much detail, but you have to flesh it out enough to understand, to help the team understand, what are we trying to do here? So it's best to write down, for instance, build great momentum to become a leader in the US. And so the idea here is to say, hey, we know that we're just getting started, so we're building momentum and we want to become a leader. We're not yet a leader. We want to become a leader in the US. That's going to be much more helpful for teams that are trying to look at those objectives and understand what the key results need to be. The third one, so perfect is the enemy of good. So if some of your key results are not measurable, personally, I think that's okay. Same if some of your key results are outputs. Try to get some kind of balance, right? I know that when you're doing OKRs for the first time, it's hard to get everything measurable. And sometimes you just have those super important projects that just need to be delivered. And that's a key result. So I think the best way is to think about it as a balance. 60% is measurable, 20% are outputs, 20% are not measurable. right? So don't try to force your team to figure out, like, imagine some kind of like weird metric to measure something that is hard to measure. Is going to be unhelpful and difficult, and people are going to resent you for it. Now, let's jump into the platform. So those are the OKRs that we have in Q1, and I'm going to talk about it. So first thing you can see, we have like 1, 2, 3, and 4 key results. So as I said, I know that this is a stretch, but I do know it, right? It's like, I don't want to have more OKRs than this. The second part is like this objective here. There's just one KR, but actually there's like a couple of things that are masked currently. But like what I try to have is really only like 3 to 4 key results per objectives. Here you can see that there are 4, but it's because we actually marked this one as done. And so we decided that, oh, okay, it's okay. We can add like one more to just like help us like get a better understanding of how we're boosting revenue growth. Now, if I look at the objectives, we really try to describe what we want at the end of the quarter. So we wanted to make sure that, hey, this quarter, we really need to be obsessive about customer service. And then we have ways underneath for us to kind of like measure that this is quite true. Some of these things, they correlate really hard with like being obsessive, really well with being obsessive about customer service. Some others, they're like a side effect of us. Like if we are really good, it should be easy for us to get positive reviews. And in this case, it's actually hard because, well, you also have to go and ask for reviews, which is not something we do all the time. Here, same thing. So provide an amazing end user experience. As you see, like this one might be like a little bit hard to understand how this relates, but this is about us like thinking about that onboarding experience for the new people that sign up. Boost revenue growth. So here, like, so you'll see that probably all the things we have here are quite measurable, but this one here, you can argue that contacting 1,200 companies, that's not really an outcome because we're not really thinking about how many of these companies are successful or not successful, but how many turned into like actual leads that can probably become a customer later. But in this case, it's something that we knew that, you know, we basically tried cold outreach, and cold outreach is something new to the team. We were not sure we would be good at that. And so we thought, hey, we need to simplify our tracking because, you know, there's no point in us tracking like conversions of this if we don't know if we can send enough, reach out to enough teams. And so we decided to have this one, which is like how many leads per week we have, which correlates really well with like that idea of boosting revenue growth. So we wanted to move from 60 to 80 leads per week. And then we would track separately how many companies we're able to contact. And so what we realized is that actually we were not good at doing cold outreach. And so we decided to stop that effort. But stopping that effort didn't prevent us from actually increasing the leads because, as you can see here, we actually crushed that goal, like crushed it. And so that's what I mean about like the structure of the OKRs. So we decided to have like a mix where this one would be like not tracking an outcome, but tracking an output, because we needed to understand, are we even good at this? There's no point sometimes, you don't have to get too sophisticated. If there's something that is new to the team, I'll encourage you to maybe track the output first. And once you have like some kind of confidence that you're good at the output, then you can track the outcome. That sounded a bit weird, but I hope that this makes sense. So once again, what's important? Not too many OKRs, distributing those OKRs within the team. So we don't want to have someone that has like to update like 12, 10, 20 things per week. They're going to hate the tool. They're going to hate the process. They're going to hate the OKRs. If you look at my dashboard, like I have 6 items, right? You can see it. I have 6 items that I update on a weekly basis. And that helps me because, it's like things that I focus on, and then the rest of it, it's some other people on the team. But then when we come to our weekly meeting, there's not so many things being tracked that we don't know what we're talking about. It's really easy for us to understand, like, okay, what's our focus? What are the things we need to correct? What are the things that we need to double down on? All right, so I'm going to go back to this. So I hope this was helpful. So if you're setting goals with your team, I would say try on each plan, try to limit the number of goals. 3 objectives, 3 to 4 key results per objectives. Make sure your objectives, when you write them down, they're really clear. Like they're like not a super long sentence, like a short sentence that explain where you want to be at the end of the quarter. And don't aim for perfection. That's okay to have a mix. And sometimes it makes actually more sense to track outputs. It makes more sense to not go for the measurable metric that might be a little bit too hard to understand or too hard to gather. That's it for my advice. If you have any questions, so in the platform, you can click here, you can click to support chat, post a question here, and the team will answer in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye.